What's happening? I wanted to talk to you guys today about a new book that I released, No Zero Days, 10 Tenets, available now on Amazon and Audible. But I really wanted to share a little bit about the background philosophy of No Zero Days and dive into the book. Uh, the book is to be used really as a field manual for those that are looking for higher performance, fitness and wellness improvement, and mental toughness. Each chapter consist of one of these 10 tenets. And I want to talk to you about the first one today. That's to do something every day. And therein lies the primary ethos behind the philosophy of No Zero Days. A little background on how that started. August of 2001, I'd found myself personally in a place where I was struggling to balance time, career, family. We just had our second child, and I was really overwhelmed with a very demanding career at that point. But I was also really highly involved in the sport of triathlon and martial arts, and just having a hard time dedicating any time to things that moved me and loved me, besides my family. And my wife's niece was hiking the Appalachian Trail that summer after graduating college. And I was really enamored with the whole concept of just being free for several months to hike several thousand miles, and to be able to go and discover yourself. And at that point, I had just read a book called A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson. They made a movie out of that book, and I encourage anybody that's looking for a good read to go find that book. But in reading that book, I had come to the assumption that my wife's niece, was behind schedule by at least 30 days, meaning that they were heading north from Georgia, and they were going to run into bad weather. They were going to have winter like conditions by the time they got to Maine. So as she's coming through Pennsylvania, we met her and some of her trail mates. And I had asked the question. I said, "Do you think you're going to make it to Katahdin before the snow flies?" And she replied, "I don't know. We had a lot of 0 days." And that struck me because I thought, man, you've got such a big task in front of you. How could you just not get up and do something, even if it was just a mile? And let me walk you through where I was in my fitness and mindset at that point. Back in the early days of triathlon, interval training wasn't as popular. It was just do more is better, and I adopted that philosophy, and I was embedded in it in my training, which meant to me that if I did not have 2 hours to go for a bike ride, it wasn't worth getting on a bike. If I couldn't spend at least an hour in a pool, it wasn't worth swimming. If I wasn't in the gym for at least an hour, it probably wasn't worth doing the workout. So consequently, I was letting those myths, if you will, get in my way of working out. And I found myself in a deficit and miserable mentally and emotionally because I wasn't being able to do the things that I enjoyed and loved and were fulfilling, giving back to me. But at the same time, I didn't want to neglect my family or my career. So I made a commitment to myself at that point. I said, okay, from now on, I'm going to do something every day, regardless of the amount of time. That was August of 2001. And I've stuck to that mantra, that philosophy, that ethos, if you will, since August of 2001. And I have to tell you, it's provided a lot of benefits. As you can imagine, there are physical benefits to that, but there's been huge emotional gains in my ability to be able to process, not self, contaminate myself with negative thoughts about what deficit I'm in and what I wasn't able to accomplish, and focus on the fact that hey, I got something in today. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Chapter one: do something every day. Again, you can imagine the physical benefits of being active and dedicating yourself to fitness on a daily basis. There's lots of data in here that talks about those physical benefits. And after all, it creates a level of discipline. There's science that shows us that if you could break things down into small fragments of accomplishment, uh, that settles into a discipline and creates habitual formation. And over time, you begin to adopt that, and that becomes part of you. And it's that easier to get up the next day, show up, and do the same thing again. But what I've noticed, and I think many of others have noticed, that it also breeds a certain level of conditioning and gives you a foundation for growth and for more. So step one, do something every day. Now let's talk about that. Obviously, I still like big days. I still like chasing big goals. I still enjoy long training sessions and suffering. But there's time commitments, there's life, there's injury and illness, which is another chapter in here. Talk about the getting away. So doing something every day. For me, what does that mean? If I'm held up, I can't get to the gym. There's something that's preventing me from a time scheduling standpoint to put in an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it might be. I might go to push-ups. I might just do 100 push-ups. And I run across these obstacles with folks too that talk about the time commitment. And, that's really a falsehood because you have more time than you think. Here's a great scenario. I'll ask people, how many push ups can you do in a minute? And generally they look at me like I'm judging them. And I'm like, I don't know. And I'll ask, have you ever tried? It's like, well, I've never timed myself. And well, time yourself, see what that number is. From my experience, it usually sits between 20 and 30 push ups a minute for men and maybe 15 to 20 for women, depending. If you take that and you extrapolate that over 365 days, you're into the thousands. And then I'll turn that around and I'll ask, do you think if you've done 7 or 8,000 push-ups in a year, it might make a difference? And that's only taking a minute. So you have more time than you think you have. So don't let the excuses of time get in the way. Instead, put in front of you the availability of time that you have in that moment and what you might be able to do with it. And if that's all you have and you got to get back to your routine, check the box. Give yourself a pat on the back and allow yourself to move forward. Those little incremental accomplishments, they add up. They build emotional support. They build self-esteem. It starts to build confidence. That's where the character comes from. So let's get away from the excuses. Let's start looking at the opportunities. Reframe your mindset because you have the time and do something every day. Dive into chapter 1. Let me know what you think about the book. Again, available on Amazon and Audible. I hope you enjoy it. Look forward to your feedback. Have a great day.